Hi everyone. So I want to talk more about letting go of good and bad and morality. That whole topic. Morality. Good and bad. So if you look at it on a physical level, the good and bad doesn't exist. If you look at how each of us, all of humanity, we have, parts of ourself, our mind, defined within certain words, and within those words, that is how we perceive reality. Which is really quite interesting how that works, where depending on the words we have and our definitions for that, we perceive reality completely differently. That is why sometimes you can talk with someone and explain to them something that is perfectly reasonable, logical to you, but when you tell them about it, they don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to them. It's really because of the basic point of how they're perceiving your words. How are they perceiving reality? Which the words they have and what they perceive of reality is different than you. So this is why it's important to make sure that your words are really aligned to reality. So if you look at the words good and bad is such an oversimplification of reality, of values. Where good and bad is as if something is a 1 or a 2. But can you really define anything as reality as either 1 or 2, as either good or bad? I mean, like, really, absolutely. How reality works is more on a spectrum, which is like more of a, if you don't know that word, that may be difficult to understand. So if something like that's on a gradient scale, and you don't know that, maybe know the word scale, where it's like a thermometer. When you measure temperature, it's a scale where it can be very many different number of numbers. It's not either hot or cold. It is like 100 degrees Celsius, 50 degrees Celsius, 0 degrees Celsius, or Fahrenheit. There are real numbers, and they're all different. It's unique. That when the temperature changes by a little bit, it changes. It's unique. It's not just hot or cold. And so, that is what temperature really is. That's what it exists as. It doesn't exist in hot or cold. That's not the reality. That's not real. That is a perception that we can have. But is that the truth? No, the truth is that what is temperature is a measurement. It's something that's specific. It's something that you can really measure that specifically. It's going to be a certain number, and that is unique. It's not simply hot or cold. Hot or cold is your perception of that, which doesn't even necessarily need to even exist. If the word hot and cold didn't exist, we'd find other ways to communicate which could actually refer to something that's more specific, something that's more practical. If you look at really when you have specificity, when things are specific versus something that's very general, that points more to reality because you're being specific about how reality exists. So when we look at the words good and bad is an oversimplification of reality. It is not really defining the exact specific nature of something. Like if you look at a person and simply use the label as good or bad, like a good person or a bad person, that is a major oversimplification of that person. It actually doesn't give you any information really. Because what do they mean, good or bad? Like, is it this or that mean? This actually doesn't say anything. Yet we will react. Yet we have a definition. Yet we have a belief. Like if you come to someone here and say, okay, look, this is a good person. What does it even mean? A good person. Who is he really like? What? And it's like it can be really abused then, because then it becomes a point of when something is not specific, when something's oversimplified. then you can justify, like saying like, oh, I said he was a good person, but I didn't say this, but he's still a good person. It's like then excuses can arise when you're being general. If you look at excuses itself, excuses tend to be generalizations, being very general, not being specific. If you're being specific about how you were, how you acted, what you did, then that's exactly what you did. Like, I didn't do this. It's not like you have this whole story being general about what happened. It's like, the fact is, I didn't do this. That's reality. That's being specific. So here's the thing with words, which if you look at this, it's very much a point of almost humanity not developing their words. Because if you look at, we're assuming now, okay, that when children start learning language, they start with simplified words because they need to start somewhere, the basic building blocks of words. They learn a few words, But what's supposed to happen is an evolution, where as they grow up, as they get more experience, they get more specific words, and they can talk about things more specifically, more accurately, more precisely, describe how reality works, how it functions, how things exist. And that's how we all should be developing. But we don't. And we actually then become very general, and we perceive the world in a very general way, within good or bad, for example. Now the thing is, this isn't existing only on a mental level, knowledge level. Like, I can explain to you all of this on a mental level, knowledge level. I can even have a very large vocabulary. I can be very intelligent. I could have all that, yet still perceive reality within good or bad. Because it goes much deeper than simply knowledge. It goes in the point of your emotional self, what you feel within you. That point of yourself, of your feelings, of your emotions. And that's a whole different level of experience, of information. That you may have all the knowledge in your head, but it's your emotional content that you put into the words. That's actually stronger. That actually takes precedence over what you may think. Your emotions are at a deeper level than your thoughts. And so if you feel like angry, emotional about something, that's going to take precedence over whatever it may be, even if you may logically think something differently. I mean, it has to be from this point of realization where, okay, well, I feel this thing, I feel anger. Like if I hear a bad person, the word bad person, I feel anger, or I feel fearful. That's here. Thing is, we have to have that ability of control, of saying no, of saying stopping, and actually deciding what we feel. You realize that what you feel is really a decision. And if we don't realize that point, then our emotions are, they say, running amok, where you'll simply feel fear and anger when you hear the word bad or bad person. And that's how you react. Like if someone calls you a bad person, you'll react emotionally. And like I said, that takes precedence. And you've experienced that for sure. Everyone has. Because it's so common. It's like everyday life. When something emotional happens, that takes precedence. And by the word precedence, I mean it comes first. That's in the first in the order. It's going to override whatever else is going on. And yes, we have a level of control where we can suppress our emotions for a moment. But as well, you can see over time where suppression can only last so long because it's like you're putting all this effort, like trying to hold back all this force, all this water, coming out of a pipe. But the force is going to overcome you eventually because it just keeps growing stronger and stronger and stronger. So that's not really a solution, and the pipe's going to burst. So this is the reality. Emotions are stronger than our thoughts. Now the thing is, the thing we need to look to do is actually be able to decide who we are, decide what word we're living, decide what we're actually doing with our lives, within how we feel, within what we think. So it's actually us deciding. And we've accepted it culturally that what we feel is who we are, and that's normal and that's natural, and we don't have to really decide what we feel, we just feel what we feel. That's what we've culturally accepted as society, as people. But the truth is, we have a choice. We can change what we feel. That is a part of who we are. Just like we can change our thoughts about something, we can change what we feel about something. And this also becomes a point of excuse where we've used what we feel as an excuse. Like if you feel love for someone, even though they may be in a relationship, use that as an excuse to go after them. Use that as an excuse to have that person cheat, and you cheat with them against their other partner and against their actual partner because you had the feeling. And so this is just one example of excuse, but there's plenty of examples of excuse where you felt this way. You felt angry, so you felt you were right to express that anger, to yell at someone. It's like you can go on and on. We use our emotions as an excuse, when the truth is we decide our emotions. They're not an excuse. They can never really be an excuse. They can never be a reason to do something, really, because it's a decision we make. And it becomes something that's like a program where we decide to feel a certain way in this situation. Then it becomes a rule, where that rule is what rules over us. We were made a rule that every time we're in this situation we'll feel anger or sadness or even happiness. But then that rule is our decision, and that's what we live. And that's how we end up with different personalities. Where all of us, we're all a little bit different, right? We all have different personalities amongst us. But how come we're different? Why do we have different personalities? Why does it seem so fixed? Well, it's because we're creating these rules. Since we were very little, we created these rules, these ideas, these beliefs about who we are. We followed the rule. We stick to the belief. We stick to the idea of who we are. And that's what we became, and that's how we evolved as we grew up, in this world. And so this is how we've existed as. This is how we became to who we are as human beings, as now adults. This is how we come to this point, and it has been through our decisions. It's been through our acceptance and allowance. And same thing with good or bad. We've oversimplified reality where we simply feel good or bad. And we have emotions and feelings which are either good or bad. That's already an oversimplification of reality where it's so limited where it can only be a 1 or a 2. Instead of actually, for example, the physical senses. When you sense reality, you feel reality. You feel the heat. You feel the coldness. You feel at various different temperatures. And it's all unique. It's all different. You feel the air. As you move your hand through air, you can feel the air with your hand. You feel it. You can feel the surface of the desk of wood. You can feel the surface of water. You can feel so much with your body. And that's a real feeling. That's a physical feeling. You're feeling with your hand. You're feeling the air. When you breathe in your lungs, you can feel that. And that's real. It's not a feeling within you that's either good or bad. This is a real physical sensation. It's a real feeling of reality. You're feeling reality through your body. And that is unique. And that is of all sorts of shapes and sizes and of a whole scale, a whole spectrum of things. But when you have a feeling, what we limit it to is just good or bad, just a 1 or a 2. And that's how we experience reality then, when we'll feel something, then we impose that on top of what we feel of reality. If we feel something rough, we may call that as bad. If we feel something good, if we feel something soft, we may call that good. And so then we start defining the temperatures, sensations of reality, of the air, of everything, as either good or bad. And then that's how we start spiritualizing things. We start spiritualizing breathing and making breathing as something that's positive and good. Or we start spiritualizing things like the elements, like water, or earth, or wind, and we start creating some feelings of physical reality, real physical sensations of reality, as good, and other physical sensations of reality as bad. Like pain. If we call pain as bad, and then that's how we react, and then we react at an emotional level. So on top of that, it's an emotional level. And that's where good and bad really reside in as a heart of it, because remember, emotional is at a deeper level than what you think. It's what you feel already. It's like that takes precedence. It overrides what you're thinking. Your thought, the content of your thoughts, the most important content of it is what you feel about it. And so this is how we've created our reality. And this is who we are right now as adults, as human beings. And this is how we programmed ourselves to be. This is the rules we follow within ourselves. This is how we've gotten to where we are today. The good and the bad. The one or the two. And so, in truth, we're not really experiencing the fullness of reality, which isn't actually good or bad. Reality exists on a different level. Completely. It's something that's actually real. Because you can see all the different levels and aspects and dimensions and points, which isn't limited to what we experience right now as a one or two as good or bad. It's something that's actually unique and different. And its expression is unique. And as well as our very definitions of who we are, our very personalities, our very expression, that can be something just as real as reality, where it is unique, where we can express various and a multitude of unique expressions, various of them, by our will, at our command. We can express a happiness, we can express a joy, we can express excitement, and each of those things would be unique and be our creation in the moment, and be really us living in our bodies and us actually expressing as that. And we wouldn't really call it as something that's as good. It would just be who we are, and good and bad wouldn't exist anymore. That's a future that is not here yet for all of us, for any of us. This is a future I'm talking about that will be humanity's next point of real evolution, of real change, of real updating of who we are, a real expansion of who we are. And that is something that is physical, and that is something that would be stable, and that would be something just as real as your hand, just as real as your hand right here, that it is here, and it is you. Going through good and bad, walking out of good and bad, that is a challenge. And that is something that we must do. To be able to walk out of our emotions and feelings, and really walk into our bodies, and experience what it means beyond that, beyond what's good and bad, and really transcend that. Where we don't experience reality within that lens, with the eyes that see good or bad, but just experience reality. How much of your reality, how much of your own experience is based within what you feel on an emotional level within yourself, on a feeling level within yourself, whether it's something good or bad, whether it's even a feeling of what you may call peace, or you may call love, or you may call happiness, or joy, or fear, or anger, or sadness. How much do you experience this real physical reality just through your emotions? And how much you've experienced of this reality that's just physical, that's just what exists. All of us are stuck within what we're feeling, within our own perception experience of reality, instead of actually just experiencing reality with our physical senses, within that real, just basic, this is who I am, I'm equal to this, I'm equal to this physical world, I am a physical being, I am in this physical reality. And what I feel about this reality is just my feeling of it. For me to actually know reality, I need to drop what I feel and just actually get to know it. The same thing with getting to know another person, the same thing with getting to know yourself, and it's the same thing with getting to know reality. Drop what you perceive of it within yourself, what you have beliefs about it, your ideas about it, and just actually, in this moment, right here, is very real in real time, in this moment that you have. Just experience it. Just see what it's like. See your power to drop what you're feeling about things emotionally, your ideas of it, and just be with the reality. To be able to feel your body, to be physical. I mean, this is like real. This is like truth. This is something that's undeniable. It's something that will exist whether we choose to acknowledge it or not. It's here. So it's about us taking that step forward to be here with it, to be here with what is real. Instead of being within ourselves, within a bubble, feeling about things, feeling about this or that, thinking about this or that. When actually, working with things objectively, practically, with how things function, with how things would actually be best for everyone. To actually find real practical solutions to real practical problems in our lives, instead of creating all these mental, emotional problems, which some of them is really just something we create within our heads. It's not in a relationship to real practical problems in reality. So what it means to actually study reality, to actually be a human being, to actually be normal, to actually be able to work with things with how they exist, and to be able to be comfortable in this world with anything of this world. It starts with getting physical. It starts with getting real, practical. Dropping those emotions, those feelings, those thoughts about things, and just becoming real. Okay. See you in the next one. Bye.